back to Isis Temple.
Meanwhile, on Sesame Street.
Now for something completely different.
So this giant cave entrance photographed here, these pictures have to be I believe, 60s, early mid-50s, whenever there was this famous airplane crash in the Grand Canyon that the War Department or FBI, whatever the heck it was that had the authority back then, went in and closed down the Grand Canyon, trying to get survivors supposedly for weeks or a month on end or something like that, only to after reemerging of it reopening. So here it is again pictured, the giant cave entrance of Isis Temple before the pictures, or before the airplane accident. And ever since the airplane accident, is the first plane crash to crash into a mountain and build a brick wall covering a giant cave entrance to the main Isis temple. So you can either believe that airplanes bring down twin towers, or you can believe that they try to tell you to believe that it built this brick or mud rock wall covering.
BurnEye A, I had no idea any of this. Wow, interesting.
Yeah, this is actual facts that they had this airplane.
What you showed earlier with that perfect like half circle.
Yeah, here's one
scenario there is really interesting.
Yeah.
Bring back.
I had no idea any of this. I've heard of the caves and tunnels in the Grand Canyon, but they're not there. The ones that most people talk about, they built a retreat above it and some sort of.
So this is the exact same area that your drones will be shot down, or now they don't even power on in this area.
Yeah, this curve just doesn't make sense.
You will get arrested if you're caught trespassing in this area, and only 100 or 1,000 people or something are allowed to go on guided hikes through it a year. This was facing. So why they had to do this was the giant opening visible entrance to the Isis temple that faces the main tourist cliff wall of viewing the Grand Canyon site of these pyramid temple complex city. And that is why they had to build this fake airplane crash wall to cover up this entrance, that any photos or video of it pre 50s 60s clearly has documented this giant gaping hole entrance here. And ever since, this is what you have instead.
Yeah. Well, you even see this in the Great Pyramid. So you go down into the basement chamber, the subterranean shaft area, and you have what they call the dead-end shaft, and it's about 75 feet that goes back. It's tiny, man. You're crawling through bedrock, 3 feet by 3 feet, all the way back. And the whole ceiling is salt. It's like a half inch of salt that people have engraved their names in. But when you get to the back end wall of it, well, it's not a dead end shaft. It's cemented off, and there's a hole drilled through it. It's kind of bizarre.
Right.
Well, where does this go? Well, now we're discovering that there's a whole ton of new tunnels around the Great Pyramid that have been discovered. So,
rediscovered, because there's a whole network, and there's many different chambers both below and within the Giza pyramid alone, but the entire Giza plateau, it's well known.
I've been saying this forever. There's 10 layers of tunnel systems. No, there aren't. Well, hello. Now we've discovered 2 more layers. So yes, there are 10 layers of tunnel structures. I've been saying this for years, and people just don't want to admit to it. And the question is, how long before the Great Pyramid were these built? Because they would have been there first. They're bringing water from the Nile, this wash over from the Mediterranean during the Younger Dryas that solidified all of the North African jungle into a desert. This is where this underground water aquifer is now found between Libya, Sudan, and Egypt. Anyway, but yeah, they were bringing water from this ancient water source to the pyramids. Why? What? Why?
Powering it.
They were powering it. Correct. This is really interesting. Wow.
What is the name of that guy that does shows with dark journalists sometimes? The doctor.
Dr. Joseph P.
Farrell, yeah.
Yeah, his book talks about them holding some sort of plasma demon
I was like, wait,
hostage to power the pyramids.
So if I'm in an Airbnb, I don't have it anymore. No, I've got a lot of his books, yeah. So he talks about the Giza or the pyramid Death Star, where what's his name? Why can't I think of his name now? It's in my book. Christopher Dunn talks about it being a power plant. Yeah,
absolutely.
So Joseph and Christopher kind of have a similar philosophy around it. I'm not going to put words in Joseph's mouth, or Christopher's mouth either. But Joseph talks a lot about it. It could have been weaponized. Okay, we'll leave it at that. And Christopher Dunn is like, well, it could have been an amazing power source that would have helped, fertility of the land around the Nile. Okay, so we'll leave it at that. But yeah, I don't want to put words in either of their mouths. Joseph Farrell, love your stuff. Christopher Dunn, love your stuff as well. So yeah, I can't speak for either of you, but I'm just brief summarization. Yep.
That makes me think of the research done with the coils and the link back to Egypt. His name just left my brain. WP Gen Light and For Truth too.
Gerald, yes, sir.
Yes.
Gerald, absolutely.
Wow. I don't know why his name was slipping my mind, but yes, Gerald. He seems to have a lot of centric research going back to the pyramids.
Oh yes, he really does. And I was just gonna bring up that I forget the fellow's name, but he lives down in Mexico, and by these pyramids like Chichen Itza here.
Is that you in that picture?
That is me. That is a 18 or 20-year-old Bernie. And
Bernie, wow.
Waffle House. Good to see you, my friend. Thank you for the
You've been in the field.
But, point being, what was his name? I want to say Christoph, but I could be wrong. I most likely am. But he came on and he both was covering electroculture as well as the fact that the pyramid energy, the pyramids down in Mexico, in some of the areas that he lived kind of close to there, where the pyramids were still buried, and the farmers that had the land that were literally adjacent next to the pyramids were getting these bumper crops. They're 3-4 times the size of your average crop, and these crazy historic pictures of vegetables half the size of pickup trucks and stuff, and that it was this ancient farming using the pyramids to stimulate the growth through the electro agriculture. And that's another point, is that mainstream science has been forced to come out just in the past week and published. They didn't call it electroculture, they had to call it electro agriculture, but that when they put electricity in, it gave it 2 to 3 times the size of crop yield, and has basically verified everything that the agriculture or electroculture community and experiments have been proving and confirming for the last several years now. So yeah, there's been that. And then there's this. And what is truly the Grand Canyon Pyramid Complex site? And each of these different, they're all called temples and pyramids. And this right here looks like another one of these, what would have been like an entrance cave going in, and that possibly could have been sealed and covered up at the same time.
That just makes me think.
Yeah, it was the.
Have either of you been to the Grand Canyon?
I have yet to be, but I plan to go back. Like I've been to Vegas many times when I used to like get these standby flights for like free with WestJet airline at one point. Oh, I missed those days. But anywho, I was too ignorant to know that there was this amazing Grand Canyon underground pyramid city complex site.
I've never seen it, so yeah.
Right, and like
every time I see people's photos, I'm like, what is going on here? Yeah,
like it all looks like pretty megalithic, essentially block worky, and that with the what we're saying, the thesis that it's an inland lake or dam, that the water level would be like here or here, and then you just have what look like these pyramidal mountain structures that also look like the giant Starfort mountains elsewhere, but what actually are they?
I just had an idea. Like, I actually changed with the Department of State my nationality or whatever to full Native American, basically, and wonder if that would allow me to get into.
Potentially, places. If you have your status card with, and like I guess contact the local tribes to get in, and like is this pareidolia here, or am I actually like seeing potential like faces, statues carved onto these things? Maybe, I don't know, but they're all called temples and pyramids, and that we got to remember in the jungles of Mexico, the Americas, Central America, South America, and the U.S., all the mounds, that underneath you have all of these, and the deeper they dig, the more they are.
There's an interesting element as well, because these are all below the plateau, and so it's like Lalibela in Ethiopia, where everything is carved underneath.
Yes,
good point.
Very good point.
I don't think anybody's ever talked about that. It's like all this stuff exists below.
Yeah, it's all carved out, right? Like, and supposedly water somehow created these constant triangle pyramids and squares and 90-degree angles, right? Like, and then you get to this. And this is a topographical map of the area with the Colorado River going through. And then each of the peaks, the very top.
What? Really?
Holy shit. 100%. I've shown this many times. You haven't seen this before? Yeah, this is mind blowing.
I've never seen this. Dude.
Tower of Ra and Horus Temple, Osiris Temple, Tower of Set. So Tower of Set's the Beetlejuice. The Cheops pyramid is Mantaka, Rigel is Summer Butte, Bellatrix is Isis Temple. So yeah, that Isis Temple there, the one that they built the wall to cover the entrance that faces like the main lookout here, it aligns with Bellatrix in the Orion star constellation above. And every single one of these named temples and pyramids lines up with one of the stars that are in the night sky above you in the full, not just the Orion's belt, but the entire Orion's constellation plus the other main stars in the night sky around Orion.
Yeah, that's
All
definitely
lined up
I'm
perfectly
sorry.
to every
I've never seen you present this. Obviously, I don't have a million hours to watch everything, but that's amazing. Holy shit!
Yeah, so that's like, it's like, how many coincidences can you have before this is definitely artificially constructed? There's no doubts about it. And how did an airplane crash create this?
right.
Like, it makes no sense. And so
Because
here you can
it
see
had
kind
all
of
this
then,
cement that expanded in multi-rapid fashion, and come on.
right, exactly, in that steel airplane. And yeah, right, like, so every angle of these different temple pyramids that are named after all the different gods and goddesses and heroes of the different cultures of the past, including, like, you got Ottoman amphitheater, and it's like actually like a what looks like a giant ancient Roman amphitheater carved out of a mountain. You've got the Apollo, Temple of Apollo, Temple of Jupiter. You even have Solomon's Temple, all in this giant area construction. And here
Do
again,
we know why all these are named after these?
exactly. Why do you have Buddha Cluster? Why do we have Cheops Pyramid? Why do we have Tower of Set? Why do we have Horus Temple and Isis Temple? And that they each, once again, you have another overlay of the Orion constellation and a second topographical map of this area, and completely on point to all of the stars, to all of the peaks of these temples named pyramids named
So they're naming all of these. Has anybody done an overlay with where actually these temples are in Egypt to see if there's actually a correlation with Grand Canyon up to layout? Yeah, just curious.
I've asked that question myself before, and I have yet to find one. So we got to do it, and I'm sure that will, well, destroy the narrative some more, because I think you're onto something with that idea, Hans.
Chuck over
Here's
at
Rama
CF
Temple.
Apps. Oh, sorry. Chuck over at CF Apps, 1980, whatever his channel was.
Yeah,
He got
CF.
offed, I believe, because he was on like some tangent, and it was beautiful. He had it overlaid with the Dog Star Sirius, the 3-star cluster there, and the Great Pyramid and the Pyramid Complex. He had it all matching up pretty much perfectly with Sirius. Like, it was kind of crazy. And then
Sirius
he
is
just
the
got
brightest star
disappeared.
in Canis Major. So yeah, Canis Major is the dog constellation, the great dog.
Yeah,
But
and
Sirius is the brightest star in it.
I just find it interesting how the Dogon tribe they had knowledge of
They knew
the smaller
yeah.
stars before we even knew in modern science and stuff. But I feel like was a big connection because of all the things the Dogon tribe have to say about it that they shouldn't have known.
Big time, right? I fully agree with that, Aaron. So here we can see, here's like a picture with the perspective, still including the pathway from the lookouts going into the Grand Canyon, showing there's Isis Temple, and there's the main, what was a former entrance and cave that got covered up by the Army Corps when they went in to retrieve an airplane crash in the 50s or 60s there. And you can see why they had to do it, because with the Kincaid story and people asking what did the Smithsonian do with everything that they found in these temples, well, they couldn't just have this blatant gap opening of the main Isis pyramid site for all to see, and that everything is
Well, the fact that they
very
named things the same thing is mind blowing to me. It's like, okay, you're obviously hiding stuff here.
exactly, right? Like, no doubt about it.
You're
And
naming it in
luckily,
plain sight. Yeah, exactly.
Every single one. Look, that is a pyramid on top. That is a clear pyramid, and it still has its white casing on the very top of it. Like, that is wild. Look at that right there. And then there's the pyramid on top of this clearly terraced, layered 90-degree block structure with two 90-degree square rectangular pieces coming out like docks, because this would have been inland lake water.
Right. Yeah, I never thought about the underground correlation
right
prior.
there. Look, another step pyramid on one of the corners there.
This is fascinating. I've actually never looked at any of these structures in the Grand Canyon. So, wow.
That's why they're called pyramids, because they're literally pyramids.
All the unfinished pyramids over in Egypt too, they seem to be the oldest. Like, and they're all made out of the red granite. Like, Chuck at CFAPS, he was really into the whole older means the underground stuff with the red granite and the white. I'm distracted.
Who's snacking on chips? Gotta mute your munching. Yes, but sorry, I did break.
Chuck at CFAPS, he's got it all like laid out.
Right, yeah, I got one of Chuck's videos up right now, and this one I forgot we covered this, me and Shem Tartarian Truth, a couple years ago, but the Kincaid Mounds, and they're, I believe, in Illinois. Yeah, Illinois Metropolitan Polis, ancient pyramid city in Illinois, also named after Kincaid. So how did this Kincaid never exist yet have this crazy giant mound city metropolitan site in Illinois that's been covered up, as well as the finds in the Grand Canyon complex? But here we go. Giant major ancient sites. Let Chuck.
You can see the mounds at the site. This was a pretty impressive ancient city, as I said, around the
mound site. He said
same time as Cahokia, but there is no park here. No way to really visit the mounds except park on this road out here and overlook them from a distance, and that's kind of sad. Some of the cities in the area, there's a metropolis, really. Brookport, High Point, Paducah, Farley, Ledbetter. Those are a few of the cities in this general area here. I'm wondering if any of my subs have ever been to this site. It appears to be fairly lonely and quiet. This is about 140 miles east of Cahokia. And obviously, when the Google Earth imagery was taken, there was a lot of flooding going down in this area. And maybe some of you who live in the area can tell me if this is an annual event, all this flooding out here. These mounds were excavated about 1934, and even on this mound today on Google Earth, you can even tell where the excavations took place. You can see how that mound right there was carved into, right there. But it makes you wonder if they had flooding back then and how often it happened. But these mounds have obviously withstood many, many floods, and they still stand out there today, and just gives credit to the people who built them. These aren't just mounds of dirt, clay, gravel, other things. They were painted in some cases. Sometimes they had stairways, but when this is all, the better we can treat them. You wonder why the apathy towards ancient American history. But that's why I make these videos, just let people know that there's places out there that exist. But this is the look from overhead at this ancient city. Maybe 1,000 years old, maybe started a little earlier than that. But here is a diagram of what this place used to look like. Places where people lived, a big wall all the way around it, as many as 9 mounds, and some of them pretty darn large.
And that could be the most recent last inhabitation. Most likely these mound cities, like when they dig them out, you get such sites as Chichen Itza or the Mexico City there, Teotihuacan, where they're documented when they were dug out, they were covered in schist, was it, or some
mica
mineral? Mica, right? Yeah, from like crazy layers and it's wild. So it's more likely they're buried ancient pre-cataclysm high technology place. And then what river is this? Where does I guess the Colorado, the head of it would be in Colorado. That would make sense, not Illinois.
No, but the fact that it floods this much,
yeah, I'm just thinking of
the question: were they
Kincaid,
using this
though,
in
right?
ancient
Because
times as an agricultural site to grow crops? Yeah.
well, and that this is a giant site that's completely undocumented, but has been ravaged, excavated back, at the 100 years ago, and named after Kincaid. The same Kincaid that is infamous in the Colorado River Grand Canyon Pyramid City discovery that
Well, also
never
with
worked for
dinosaur bones. So yeah.
Yeah, right. So I think that Kincaid probably did exist, did discover and excavate the Grand Canyon underground cities, and that he also beforehand did this site, as he worked his way across the Americas for the Smithsonian and the institutions, rewriting history and doing the cover-ups.
Interesting.
Potentially, or documenting the site.
I've never
Series could
heard
go
about
in
this
later.
site, so this is even more fascinating. So yeah.
All right, exactly. Forgotten ancient site.
About these ancient America sites, is this one place?
And look at that. Look at how badly these were destroyed and excavated and
Yeah, but they're obviously in some sort of an alignment. They're obviously have
Of
some
course.
sort of
Yeah, it's terrible how
alteration-
many they've destroyed.
alteration to something that was there originally that they made into, yeah.
But how much deeper do they go? And that's what's left and what hasn't been found.
Correct. Yeah. Interesting. Wow.
This where people would actually stop. That's another reason why I make these videos, just so people have an idea of what they look like, and maybe they would stop at these. But would people tour these if this was an open park? But we can certainly let our mind wander what this place used to look like and what the people were doing who occupied this site. Here is another artist rendition of what this place might have looked like. Now, I was looking for any news stories on the Kincaid Mounds, and I found this one from Heritage Daily. This came out a little earlier this year. The Kincaid Mounds, the Mound Metropolis of Illinois, it says the Kincaid Mounds is an ancient tribal center of the Mississippian culture that built a large settlement comprising of raised mounds in the present-day state of Illinois near the banks of the Ohio River. The Mississippian culture was a Native American civilization that emerged around 800 AD in the Midwestern, Eastern, and Southeastern regions of America. Civilization was composed of a series of urban settlements linked together by loose trading networks, with the most notable site being the city of Cahokia. So this place seemed to be linked to Cahokia through trade and other things.
How far is this from
Says the area around the Kincaid's Mounds was first occupied during the Archaic period between 8,000 to 2000 BC.
Sorry, say again, Hans?
I said, how far is this from Cahokia? It's like 100 miles or less.
He said, I think 100 or 100, around 100.
I don't even know where Cahokia was.
It's like southern Illinois. Yeah. Interesting.
I'm more familiar with Serpent Mound.
Thank you, Bernie. This is wow. I've never even heard of this place. Yeah. Interesting.
There's a ton of places
which makes Mount Tum Tum even more interesting to me here in Washington. Yeah.
Right? That's a definite pyramid mountain. That there's literally hundreds, if not thousands, of these sites that have been destroyed or covered up or, just sitting there undocumented to this day in America itself.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, America's a treasure trove.
It really is. It really is. Sorry, I'm going to let the last 3 minutes of this play out. And R.I.P. Chuck. And thank you for bringing up CF Apps. Chuck there, Aaron, great legend. And it was a tragedy. He passed way too soon.
Pictures of the early woodland The founding of the Kincaid's Mound is determined to be about 800 AD, although some sources suggest around 1050 AD. But here's some pics on the ground at the Kincaid Mounds. What they look like on the ground, not much to be seen, just grass-covered mounds. Certainly looked entirely a lot different in antiquity. It says Kincaid likely served as a trade link between native settlements in the Cumberland, Tennessee river valleys and the metropolis of Cahokia, in which influences of the Cahokian culture is evident in the Kincaid shell-tempered ceramics. Just reading a little more, it seems a few more mounds have been discovered here since I did the video 3 years ago, and they said 9 or 10 mounds existed. But just reading, it says the society revolved around a complex chiefdom structure led by a male chief and his family who exerted civil control over the community, and priests who had religious...
Gotta pause it because it's like, Chuck, are you actually believing that? Like, I don't know. But yes, they like anthropologists literally just usually make up like 90% of the story that they try to create of how these people lived off of like a couple bones and then barely excavated massive sites that they can't even explain or
They
understand.
were hunter and gatherers, but they had a concept for the stars and
right,
grow their own
forget they
crops
sacrifice
for
people.
seasons. It's just like, what? That's not a hunter and gatherer community. Sorry.
Massively terraformed everything, and it's like, look at how much of almost like a channel, like canal-ish the river is. And
well, they were using it floodwater to help crops. Yeah,
I noticed the closer it gets to Mexico, the more they're trying to shove the whole sacrificing thing on the
authority.
peoples.
So sorry, I didn't mean to hit play there, but like these trenches, are those other channels too potentially? Like, was it massive terraformed agriculture and they haven't even begun to scratch the surface of it and cover it up? I don't know, because like it's pretty
looking at
interesting
positioning, they're definitely using the even flow of the river, throughout these structures to collect silt. Yeah, it looks like it.
Right, like it looks like there's a couple different canals next to it, and like how old are they? They'll probably claim new, but are they actually?
Palisade may have served as a defensive purpose, but has also been suggested that it functioned to mark the boundary of the ceremonial site and the seat of the chiefdom's authority. But that is the way it looks from overhead today. Maybe remnants of that wall right there. This is the way artists think it looked a long time ago.
Well,
now, I will leave a few links below, but here is the visiting area at the mound site today, where you can go and overlook these from a distance. There is another look at the mounds, but just finishing this one article, it says the Mississippian culture occupation at the site appears to have ended by 1400 to 1450, possibly due to the exhaustion of local resources such as timber and game, a period which archaeologists call the vacant quarter. There's other possibilities, I guess. Maybe disease being introduced into the area is one other possibility, but by about 500 years ago, these people seem to be gone. Now, here is one story, and I read a few like this. Prehistoric mound, disturbed, possibly looted. But if you don't have a park, you don't have security here, obviously we're going to have some problems like this. Can't we treat our ancient American history just a little bit better? That's all I'm asking. That is a quickie on the Kincaid Mounds here in southern Illinois, center of ancient chiefdom. This seemed to be a very important place about 1,000 years ago in ancient America. Probably these people were trading with Cahokia and also places to the east. Ancient America was one big trade network based on the riverways. You have stuff in Florida from the Great Lakes region. You have stuff at mound sites in Indiana and Illinois from Wyoming. I mean, it's really remarkable how the goods were traded all over ancient America 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago. It's a pretty amazing story, and I'm still looking into it. Thought I would talk about that one today. I don't think I made a video.
All right, sorry, paused it there.
Post a link to this somewhere. Yeah, this is fascinating.
100%. Yeah, and like Chuck was such a legend and just did such absolute amazing work. So many different epic, awesome videos on his channel, CF Apps 7865.
I love the attention he gave to the unfinished pyramids and all the detail there. It's
Yes,
I don't believe for a
absolutely.
second they were pyramids or intended to be.
No,
No,
that's why I was
tombs.
curious
You
if the
mean
water.
tombs, right?
Well, if the water's washing through there, they were using it for different elements of straying the water. But yeah,
And I forgot what I was going to say about Chuck and his work there.
is this his site here?
Yeah, this is a site, CF apps.
Scroll.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
thank you.
I remember. Sorry, what? I was going to bring the connection.
Scroll back to the top.
Scroll to the top. Sorry, my apologies. There you go.
Thanks,
but
dude. All right, awesome.
that what's now documented in fact, and they've gone back and they're starting to do, although it's not really public. They published just a little bit of it and a couple pictures, but there's a full giant Stonehenge under Lake Michigan, like 400 feet or something below, just crazy.
Wasn't there a obelisk that also was sticking up above the water that people would go out to and have picnics next
Yes,
to? And,
yeah. There's several different of these anomalies throughout the Great Lakes, and now that they keep finding more and more sunken megalithic sites, which just goes to prove that it's not just hundreds or thousands, but it's tens of thousands of years that they've been building, living, and existing civilization in North America and the Americas, not just the old world.
I definitely think it's interesting about the monolith that is shoved over the hill at the Serpent Mound. Like the correlations just with Egypt are right there. And it's obvious someone tried really hard to get rid of the evidence by shoving it over the hillside.
That's a very good point.
I
You
put
see
the
a lot
link
of
to
this
that
in
in the
Egypt as well, where these old mud mounds, all of a sudden they're finding structures underneath them. Luxor is a huge version of this. It was buried under a mound in the 1300s. The Arabs built a mosque on top of it. And when the Germans came in the 1800s, they're like, wait, there's something underneath the mosque. And they dug out the Temple of Luxor. Well, if the Nile Valley has been occupied for the last 6,000 plus years, why is the Temple of Luxor buried under a mud mound? It's like
right.
And they keep finding more stuff buried under mud mounds
in deserts.
Like, oh, this is
deserts.
2,500 years ago. No, you don't have any way of allocating that. You're in the middle of the most fertile valley in the world. This place would have been occupied for 6,000 years. None of these sites would have been buried unless they're much older.
What about like Rome being like dug up? The possibility of that. I've been curious.
Oh, even Rome. A lot of these ancient sites are
a lot
beyond old. Yeah, but
I fully agree.
Biblical times and quackademia want to place them within a 5,000 year timeline. It's just like, I'm sorry, if you keep digging shit up and it's older and older and older, you can't keep launching it to this 5,000 year timeline, which is why they want to claim Göbekli Tepe is, hunter and gatherers. Well, we've only uncovered 1/50.
Right, but then there's Karen Tepe that's also massive megalithic right next to it.
It's 2,000 years older.
No, Karen Tepe is 40,000. Karen Tepe is officially like 38 or 40,000 years old.
Oh, I thought it was 14. I thought it was only 2,000.
40, right?
Yeah, so Matthew LaCroix's a good authority on that.
Yeah, it completely destroys.
But regardless, both of these sites, they're 1/50th uncovered, so we don't really know the extent of the sites. And because they're 1/50th uncovered, the archaeologists are like, "Oh my God, this is hunter and gatherers." It's like That's
Have to
stupid to
just
even
get their
even
narrative.
think that, because it would require astronomy, it would require agriculture, archaeology. I mean, everything that a civilization would have to have been implemented just to make Göbekli Tepe. Period. There's no way around that.
Right.
But
Yeah.
we're told still,
100%.
oh, hunters and gatherers banded together to create the first religious site. Yeah, bullshit. Sorry. Anyway,
It's like them saying the
pardon my
random
French, Bernie.
guys
but-
in the desert made the
That's
place
true.
in Jordan.
Correct. Yeah, exactly. But we see Petra and Jordan. We're like,
Yeah.
Petra is beautiful, but we don't see the two sites
Did I
of
freeze?
Persephone in Iran, which are even more amazing than Petra. Like,
I just
beyond.
think it's crazy
Beyond.
how a lot of the places
And
of
we'll
Mecca
never
you
see them
point
because
towards,
you and I, we can't go to Iran. It's like,
sucks.
it sucks, but my friends from Australia have been there and have photographed like Persephone, and it's Petra on steroids.
And hopefully they don't
It's even more amazing than Petra. Petra's amazing, but this is even more amazing. So
I didn't even really know about it. It wasn't on
bomb
my radar.
Iran
look
and
up
blow it all
Persephone
up or
in
nuke
Iran.
it.
It's like Petra. It's an extension of Petra, basically.
Sweet.
Yeah.
It's, in the near future, like so we can.
Sorry, what?
Yeah, you're cutting out.
Bernie, you're on mute. You're on.
Can you hear me? Am I
Yeah, there we
muted?
go. Yay. Now you're unmuted.
Am I good? I'm unmuted. You can hear?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you're a bit
Am I a
delayed
robot?
though. Nope, now you're on mute again. Yep. Wait. Nope. Yep. Nope.
Am I muted?
No.
No.
I'm good. You
Yep.
can hear me? It's choppy.
Yes.
All right. Well, I guess
We're
it
live
is also,
again.
it is getting to that time.
Yeah, I agree.
Almost at the 2 hours and 2:34 a.m. In Alberta right now. So that makes it 1:34 on the West Coast and
It's 4:30 here.
on the wow. Yeah. So we will let everyone go and get to rest. And
I've been moving all week, so I'm in crazy zone. But thank you, Bernie, for the opportunity to come back on. Love you, brother.
oh,
Yeah.
love you, Hans, and always a pleasure. And ta-ta.
Thank you, Bernie. Cheers, cheers.
Night, guys.
I'm sweet. I got a beat. Just look at me. What do you see? Pineapple owl. I'm a pineapple owl. You crazy mother. Yeah.
It's just Bernie!
Hey, Bernie, just like last week, huh?